Card Dealings Podcast. It's a podcast about selling sports cards. Season 2 of the podcast. It's been a minute since I've put one out, but we'll get back on the horse now and start getting these out with a little bit more regularity. And I figure we go into a nice general topic to start off the new season of the show today. Talking about getting the most value out of your cards. How do I maximize what I'm getting for my cards? Very simple question with a not so simple answer, because there are people out there who will tell you that if you follow this blank step process, you can get rich off of cards. And it's truthfully just not that simple. In fact, it's quite difficult, and you're not going to get rich off of sports cards. I hate to break it to you, but I'll tell you that right now, you're not going to get rich. What I will say, though, is that most people in their life who buy a sports card are going to end up selling a sports card. In fact, pretty much every single card that we buy will be sold at some point. Yes, there are times where a card may get destroyed, it may get lost, or maybe it's even buried with someone. I've heard of all of those things before. For the most part, though, every single card that we get will be sold. Now, maybe it's sold by those who succeed us in life, and they'll take the profits and put it into whatever they so desire. But I'm mostly talking about the people who are going to sell a card themselves. And that means maybe you only sell a couple of cards a year. Maybe you sell a couple cards every single day. Regardless of how frequently you do it, there's one goal amongst everyone, and that is maximizing what you get for your cards. But there's sometimes that we concede that maximization of value for convenience, for expediting the process, for liquidity, all things that we have to consider. But today I want to just go over in broad terms, how do you get the most bang for your buck out of your cards? How do you get the most value out of them? And that word is very tricky, value, because usually when I say that, we're going to associate that with monetary value, meaning how can I get the most cash for my card? But it doesn't have to be cash. It can be in the form of trade. How do I get a card that maybe it's a card that's worth more, or maybe it's a card that I've been after for quite some time. It's a particularly rare card. It's a card I have sentimental attachment towards. Maybe it's a trade for something not card related. Maybe you're trading your prized possession for a motorcycle, a watch, a piece of jewelry. I don't know, whatever your heart desires, you're trading it for that. There's always that too. And then there's kind of a miscellaneous category, and that is exchanging our cards and getting value in the form of clout. So perhaps, say on this channel I ran a giveaway, and I'm taking a card that I purchase, and I'm going to give it away. And what am I hoping to gain outside of just maybe just doing something nice or getting some goodwill? Maybe if I ran a contest, I would perhaps gain some subscribers for it, or I would gain more attention on a certain video. Those are things that perhaps you can gather as well. I'm mostly focused on cash and trade for today's episode. And cash is really the critical part here, because at the end of the day, that's usually what it leads to, is that sometimes in trade, unless you're getting something that you want to keep for yourself, you're trading for something that will also eventually be sold. And the biggest thing that you have to do to get the most for your cards is to do the work yourself. And I know a lot of people out there are not going to like that, but that is the bottom line, is that you have to do the work for yourself, and a lot of times you have to be patient. What does it mean to do the work for yourself? Well, number one, you need to be the one selling the card. If you are relying on a consignment service, if you are relying on taking it up to a dealer at a show, that is not necessarily going to be how you maximize your value. In some cases it is with consignment, right? You send a card to the right auction house, and perhaps that auction house can get a bidding war going for you that is going to generate more than you could have ever possibly dreamed of if you had listed the card on your own eBay page or you had taken it and set it up at a table at a show yourself. Sometimes that does happen. But if you're using a consignment service, not to throw anybody under the bus, but if you're using like a DC Sports, a Probstein, these large-scale consigners, they are just going to give you quick liquidity on the card. Typically, you are not maximizing the value there because they are going to be the ones doing the work for you, and you're also going to be paying them to do that work. It's even more so if you are taking cards to a show or a shop and trying to sell them to dealers. This is one of the most common misconceptions I see with some newer people. I see it a lot on TikTok too, particularly with Pokemon card vendors, where a lot of these people do not understand the concept of dealers being profitable on cards. These people who spend their time sourcing inventory, setting up at shows. In some cases, they have a brick and mortar. They have a place where you can go into to buy cards, and they believe that these people just exist without making any sort of money. It's truly remarkable. That is business 101 there, is that in order to succeed, you need to turn a profit. And therefore, when you are walking up to a dealer, if you are expecting to get 100% of the value for your card, I would reset your expectations. As a matter of fact, even if you're going up to a dealer that has a banner that says paying 85 to 100%, for example, I'm here to tell you right now, it is 85% that they're paying, and it's on the lowest sale that they can find. They're not paying you 100% unless they're taking that card because they need it for a repack and they're fleecing someone on the back end with that card. In which case, hey, you got your 100%. But a lot of those cases are kind of few and far between. And generally speaking, if they're trying to fleece someone on the back end, they're probably going to try to fleece you too unless they are desperate. That is just the way it goes. Therefore, you have to be the one who sells it yourself. And most likely you're going to have to find the end user. I'm someone who sells cards full time. And a lot of people think that as a dealer, it's just an assumption that I make money on all my cards. That is incorrect. I do not make money on every single card I get. In fact, I lose money sometimes, or I don't make as much as I was hoping to. But to get the full 100% value of a card, or what I think is the full value of the card, is not just waving a magic wand. Because for every person who may come up and say, like, well, you can just sell it for this, say it's a $100 card, well, you can just sell it for $100, I say, okay, can you show me who is going to pay $100 for that card? Because a lot of times, nobody wants to pay that. Nobody wants to pay full rip. It's kind of a toxic cycle we've gotten into. That's a future podcast discussion. But especially on something common. I'm talking about your retail parallels. I'm talking about autographs of guys who sign quite a bit, cards that transact quite frequently. If it's not something that is truly desirable, where I'm the only one in the room who has it, and there's not a plethora of them up on eBay, then why does the buyer have any urgency to buy my specific copy unless there's just something incredibly special about it? Perhaps it could be the serial number, perhaps it could be the quality of the autograph, perhaps it could be some sort of error that is not on every single copy of the card. Those are exceptions to the rule. But most people, there is no sense of urgency, and there's also no loyalty to that specific card. You are in a position as a dealer where you're trying to convince them to buy your cards. I hear a lot of times that people say selling is easy. It can be, but if you want to maximize your value, then selling is not easy. Trust me. It's also not easy on certain types of cards. And that's the other part of it too, is that you have to kind of know the company that you keep with the cards that you are selling. If you have a Jackson Dart purple reactive mosaic parallel, I'll tell you right now, it is going to be nearly impossible to get the full value of that card. I don't know what that card sells for. Let's say that it's a $25 card raw. I'm just throwing a number out there. I have no clue, really. It's a $25 card. if you go to a show and you set up with that card, I'll guarantee you that 5 more people at that show, if there's at least 100 tables, will have that card as well. Now you are already competing against them. You're going to need, for everybody to sell that card, you're going to need 6 different collectors to buy that card at full value. And notice I said collectors there, because if it's someone looking to flip, if it's someone buying for a repack, chances are they're not giving you full value. They'll pay up on certain things, but a retail parallel of a rookie QB is just not one of them, especially a parallel that's as common as the purple reactive. And that's no disrespect. If you own one of those cards, I'm not trying to talk it down, but it's something that you can get very easily. If I go on eBay right now, I have my pick of the litter of them. To get the highest possible value out of that card, it's just going to take a long time to find that. And chances are, by the time you do find that person who's willing to pay that number, the card has gone down in value. Meaning that what was 80% of the value before is now 100% of the market value. So that's one of the things that you'll always have to consider is the timing of it, because values change. They fluctuate. What might be maximizing the value of your card now is going to be an unrealistic number in 6 months from now. You just never truly know. As much as we want to try to guess and pretend that we know, you just never truly know. So that's part of it. Having the right cards and then getting those cards in front of the right people is absolutely crucial as well. You'll hear people say sometimes, oh, that's a great eBay card. What really makes a great eBay card? It's subjective. But eBay, like it or not, is the largest platform out there for selling trading cards. It is. It is how you will get the most eyes on your card, period, paragraph. Now, do the fees suck sometimes? Sure. But that doesn't mean that eBay is going to be the place where you get the lowest ROI on your cards, because guess where comps are set? eBay. Ever wonder how these new comps pop up? It's because someone, an actual person, is paying that money for that card. I know, shocking. And sometimes they may actually pay more than what the last sale was, even more shocking. But that's how these things are generated. So you hear these guys who go out there and beat the comps. I've kind of talked about it myself too, where I'll find cards that don't pop up too often, and I'll go and sell them on eBay. Prime example, earlier this week, I sold a Mookie Betts Blue Wave Refractor from 2019 Topps Chrome, numbered to 75, which doesn't seem like too big of a deal. A card number out of 75, it's a lower numbered card, but it's not something that you're kind of like, oh, you don't really see that too often. But this card is now 7 years old, and typically as time goes on, things start to dry up. Cards get buried into collections, or people just don't feel the need to put the card up for sale. I put the card up on a Sunday night for $50, buy it now or best offer. The previous sale of the card was right around, I think, $30 or $35. But it happened about 2 years and 10 months to the date of when I posted mine up, and overnight someone just hit the buy it now on that card, paid $50 for it. Why? I'm guessing that it was probably the only one listed, or it was the cheapest one listed out of all the ones that were up there, and someone was like, hey, I want this card. I'm not taking a chance making an offer. I'm just going to take it. I'm willing to pay $50 for it. So there you go. That was the right eBay card. And funny enough, I had that card at a show the previous day with a $40 price sticker on it. Nobody touched it. And you might say, well, you had to pay fees on that $50. I sure did, and I still netted $43 and change on the card, which is more than if someone took it at the full $40 ask that I had it for in my showcase at the show the previous day. That goes to show you that just because eBay takes that fee doesn't mean that you are going to be losing out on that. It doesn't mean that you can't buy above 85% of whatever arbitrary number because all the fees will be gobbled up on eBay. Sure, on a card that transacts fairly often, that's probably the case. If I have a base Prism PSA 9 then and I'm buying it at 85% of the market value, guess what? I probably broke even, best case scenario, after fees. Unless I got lucky and I got one of those top of the line sales. But that's getting lucky, and in this case, getting extremely lucky. So finding the right set of eyes might require you to take the card to eBay. But there's also times that getting the right set of eyes might be getting it in front of someone at a card show. Shows are great for impulse buys, especially on stuff under $100. I have a lot of success with people seeing something that they just think is cool and they want to pick up for themselves. It's a myriad of different cards, but it's things that maybe someone didn't previously consider. Cards that stand out in a showcase. And I'll typically carry a dozen or so of those with me. And I'll have them in my case just to draw attention, if nothing else. And most of the time I end up selling a few of them. Things that I would never really expect to sell. If you ask me heading into a show, what cards do you think are most likely to move? They're usually at the bottom of my list. But there's people who buy them. And there's no exact science to those cards, but you do sometimes get those impulse buyers. I will say what helps is that there are cards that look cool. That definitely helps. It's cards of popular players. So think of your GOATs. Think of the big name rookies. That's typically going to help too. And cards that are affordable. If it's a $1,000 card, there's not too many people out there making $1,000 impulse buys. If it's a $10 card, there's quite a few people that will make a $10 impulse buy. I've done it plenty of times myself. All of this adds up to not taking shortcuts to get to where you want to be. Again, you're not going to be able to walk up to another dealer's table at a show and get the full value for your card. You're just not going to do it. You cannot use someone else as your ATM and expect to get the full value of your card. If you're selling to a repacker, a dealer, it doesn't matter. You have to be willing to do the work yourself. And sometimes that also means patience. It means that the right buyer might actually be on eBay, but they might not be on eBay until 90 days from now. It might take a while for that right person to see your card. I've had cards that I thought would sell in the snap of a finger that have taken me at least a quarter of the year to move. I've also had cards that I thought would be bricked up in my showcase for the entire summer, throughout the Christmas season. I've had these conversations in my head over and over. I put it up on eBay and it sells within 15 minutes of being put up. You just never really know, but sometimes it does require a little bit of patience to get the most for your card. Finding that right buyer who is willing to give you your number on a card. There's also the idea of timing the market correctly. This is something I'm admittedly not as good at. What I'm mostly looking for is being able to approach sports cards as I do the stock market, which is not a comparison I love to make, but my buying mindset is usually pretty similar. I want great cards at good prices. And good prices does not mean 80% of the lowest comp I can find. It means a fair price, a price that I'm comfortable with, where I say to myself, you know what? I think that that's a good value for that card in my head. Might not be for someone else, but my intuition tells me that it is. Especially on really great cards, I will happily pay a good price or a fair price as opposed to getting a great price on a card that I really have no faith in. Because I've done that before too, and usually it doesn't work out all that well. But being able to time the market, knowing the trends of players during off seasons, during free agencies, drafts, playoffs, kind of your dog days of summer if you're looking at baseball, or the stretch if you're looking at hockey or basketball, kind of that no man's land time for the NFL where you're kind of gearing up for the playoffs. You're having the teams fighting for the last few spots, but the top teams are kind of starting to rest starters. It's usually around Christmas time too, so you have the complication of the holiday season. There's a lot of different market factors to consider when you're doing that, especially if you're going to try to time the market by sending cards to auction, where you release a bit of that control. But sometimes, if you time it correctly, that is how you're going to maximize your value. But just consider everything going on around you when you're going to sell these cards, because even if you have the perfect formula where you think you nailed it, if you don't sell it at the right time, you may be left holding the bag, or you may be left wishing that you had held on to it a little bit more. I will caution you of that. Don't get greedy. There's times that I've seen people think that, well, this will just keep going up, or, oh, it will go up when the season starts. How many times have you heard that before? How many times have you said that before? Because I hear it a lot, especially with ultramodern football. And the funny thing is, most of those guys don't actually go up when the season starts. In fact, they go down, or they just tank entirely. It's kind of funny how that works, right? Even though people keep saying it year after year after year. Cash-wise, that is how you maximize value. Being patient, getting it in front of the right set of eyes, getting it at a reasonable price where you can offer it at a fair price to someone else. All ways that you can maximize your value. Let's talk about trading. If you're someone who's looking to trade, it's going to be a lot more difficult. A lot of times you are trying to fit a square peg into a board that has nothing but round holes. That's how it goes when you're trading, because you need to find someone who is going to value your card that you are giving up at the same level that you do, if not more. And typically, if they're trying to acquire the card from you, they're probably going to talk you down a little bit. They don't want to show their full hand. They don't want to show you how badly they want the card or how much they really think it's worth. In some cases, you may get that, but you are definitely going to be at a disadvantage if you are approaching someone else with a trade. This really goes for shows. Again, I talked about selling to dealers. Same thing goes with trading to dealers. Even if you find a dealer who is going to trade you at full value of your card, it's usually not going to be for something that they can move very easily. You are not going to take your Zach Wilson brick and get a downtown of a rookie quarterback. That is just not going to happen. And if you do, well, then you have pulled off a Houdini act, my friend. But that is just not realistic. Not going to happen. Usually you're going to be trading for another brick, or you're going to be trading something that the dealer thinks is a little bit more liquid for them. Easier to move is what I mean by that. There are also some dealers, and this is usually how I do it, where I will trade for your card at a slightly higher value than what I would buy it at. And you can basically use that trade value as a store credit of sorts towards any card in my case. That's the way I typically like to do it. There's shops that will do that as well. They'll offer you a cash price for your card, and then they'll offer you a store credit price. And usually that store credit is good for anything in the store. If you want to buy sealed wax, you buy sealed wax. You need supplies, get your supplies. Whatever you may need, usually the store is willing to accommodate. And I try to take a similar model when I'm trading, with some exceptions. It kind of just depends on what I am getting. But usually you're going to have to be the one who is at the table trying to trade the card away yourself. Someone is going to have to approach you with that trade. Unless you're just really good at trading. And I know people out there, they are masterful traders. That's kind of how I built myself up in the beginning, was I thought that trading was going to be my best way. And now I've kind of transitioned more where I have the bankroll, where I feel cash is usually my best avenue. And people, in tough times, they also want cash. So that's also something that I keep in mind out there. But then you also have to think about what you are going to be trading for. Because just as the person who is looking to trade with you may under or overvalue your card, they may under or overvalue their own. And that's really key, is to learn different people and what type of stuff they tend to have a bias towards. Reading people and understanding their wants, their interests, their desires out of a trade is going to be very beneficial for you. There is a dealer here locally, fantastic dealer. He has one of the best tables at every single show in the area. Anytime you go up to him, extremely popular table. He usually has a lot of nice Bengals and Reds stuff, and I'm sure some of you who are local to Cincinnati might know who I'm talking about. He might even be listening to this himself, so if he does, he'll know who he is probably. But if I try to trade with him, typically I am not going to try to trade with him for Bengals and Red stuff, especially the really nice ones. If I am going to trade with him, I am going to bring that nice Bengals and Red stuff to him. Why is that? Because he is more likely to value it more than anybody else that I might be doing a deal with. And likewise, he is going to be a lot more reluctant to let go of his really nice Joe Burrows, his really nice Jamar Chases for some random player that I am bringing up to him, unless I am giving him the Godfather offer, something that's just too good to say no. But if I'm doing that, I'm definitely not maximizing my value. If you come up to me and I have, say, a really nice hockey card in my case, that might be something that I'm undervaluing because I don't deal in hockey too often. And if you know hockey extremely well and you see the odd Alex Ovechkin auto in my case, that might be a sign that, hey, I might not be viewing this card the way that you may be viewing it. You might know something that I don't. These little context clues are usually a really good precursor to know if a trade is going to be successful for you or not. You never really know for sure, but you are usually going to be fighting an uphill battle if you ignore those signs and you kind of can see the writing on the wall before you even say, are you interested in trading? And finding the right trade partner might take patience. That's one of the motifs of this episode. Finding someone who is going to truly appreciate a card that you have as much or more than you do sometimes is difficult, especially on niche players, especially on niche sets, especially on things that are rare but don't necessarily appear to be rare on the surface level. You kind of have to find someone who knows ball, if you will, who can appreciate how rare something really is, and then also be willing to pay up for how rare that something very much is. And those types of guys, they know what they're doing as well. You're probably not pulling one over on them, if I had to guess. So there you have it. Cash and trade, how to maximize the value for your cards. There is no one-step formula to do all this. And just because you grade a card doesn't mean that you are going to maximize the value for it either. That's a really, really common misconception. I hear that a lot, is that people ask me, well, I'm thinking about getting this graded. What do you think? And I ask them why, and their answer always is, I'm trying to maximize the value of what I have here. And I tell them, let me show you something. And I'll show them what a PSA 10 of their card sells for. And I said, you're going to be out this $20 or whatever it is now to grade this, and you're going to be out 16 weeks of your time. Is that worth it for a chance to get a 10 when this is what the market currently looks like for 10s? And most of the time, that's when it hits them that, no, it's probably actually not really worth it. Not to say that you can't make money or maximize your value by grading. There's a lot of guys who do it, and there's a lot of guys who do it really well. I know some of them, and I ain't even going to try to compete with them on that because they know what they're doing, and they know what to look for. They know how to spot what will gem and what will not. They know what they can get away with on a good day and what might not slide on a bad day at any given grading company out there. It just really depends. But these are people who have that niche expertise, and they use it to maximize what they do. That's something else that you can do to get the most for your cards, is that if you can find a niche that you know really well, you know it better than anyone else, chances are you're going to have that upper hand, and it will allow you to get those extra few percentage points or get those extra few bucks when you do decide to eventually move off of that card. Find your niche. You might be surprised with how well you can do with it. What happens there is that you may pigeonhole yourself a little bit. You may not do as many deals, but if you can find something that you do really well and repeat it, that is a winning formula most of the time. That's going to do it for today's episode of Card Dealings. Much appreciated as always. Thank you for coming back here. Lots of great episodes coming your way throughout the rest of the year. You can go visit my link tree in the description of the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you're listening there to see all of the social media platforms where you can connect with me. I also now have a merch store. So I have some t-shirts with the Triple Crown logo on them. I also have the classic "I don't want to negotiate against myself" phrase on a t-shirt. I think mine actually just shipped out. I ordered some samples for myself, so I'm excited to try them out, and I'll probably be wearing them at a future show near you sometime in the next few weeks. That's all for me today, though. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, stay safe, be kind.